Today we're going to talk about 10 real estate terms you need to know. Whether you are a pro or a first-time buyer, it's very important to be familiar with these terms to navigate this process efficiently. We'll talk about everything from caveat emptor to the word appraisal. So grab your cup of coffee or favorite beer and let's dive into this. If you're thinking of buying, selling, or investing in the Fayetteville surrounding areas, please reach out to the team and I. We would love to help you. We get phone calls, emails, text messages every day from folks just like you.
Give me a text or drop me a call.
So the first term we're talking about is going to be pre-approval. Now, I've said this several times to several buyers and sellers that you need a pre-approval letter. As a buyer, to go into looking at homes blindly without knowing what your budget is or how much you can afford is not a good decision, because you could be wasting your time. Let's say you're looking at a house that's $300,000 and you come to find out you can only get a loan for $250,000. So you've wasted a lot of time by not doing that first. And it's not always about credit when getting pre-approval.
They approve the loans.
So what I get told a lot is my credit history is great, or my credit's good. I don't need to get a loan first. I don't go through that process, which is fine. Yes, credit report is, or your credit history is good. Your credit score is good. But they also look at your job history. You look at your debt to income. So job history, let's say you've worked at a job for 5-6 years, and then you switch over from that job as, let's say, a nurse, and then you switch over to becoming a firefighter or something. That's two totally different jobs, definitely two different pay scales. So good chance if you just became a firefighter or whatever, you decided to change jobs, that could affect you getting a house, because they want at least a good 2 years of the same job history. It's different if you were a nurse in California and then you moved to this area and you're still a nurse. Your job salary may change a little bit still, depending on where you moved here from, but it's still the same job. Jumping job to job to job is something they're not going to like, and they good chance they may decline you. Another thing is your debt to income. And what your debt to income is this: how much debt do you owe? If you owe a lot of money on student loans, you have car payments, you have alimony, child support, or anything else you're paying for, that could affect your debt to income. Even if your credit score is great and you're paying everything on time, the lender or loan officer is going to look at you and go, you owe too much debt, and they're afraid that they loan you money that they may have to foreclose on your home and you may go bankrupt. So that's something they're not willing to risk, of $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 or more or less on a home loan for you. So these are very important things you need to look at. So getting pre-approved is not only about your credit score.
That makes sense.
Second thing I talk about is going to be due diligence money and due diligence period, and they kind of go hand in hand. Due diligence money is this: in North Carolina, when buying a home, you have to give you don't have to give. It's recommended you give due diligence money when buying a home. So as a buyer, let's say you see a house you like, you're like, okay, this is the one, I want to put an offer on this home. Your real estate agent is going to ask you, how much due diligence money do you want to put? There's no set amount. It could be $0, it could be a couple $100, it could be a couple $1,000. I've seen it be all three. It really depends on the market and what kind of market you're in. Time this video, we're in a strange market. We have low inventory homes, but the interest rates are up to about 7.2 right now. Time this video, when you see it, it could be lower, it could be higher. But so low inventory, but high interest rates, and it's seasonal right now. It's around Christmas time. So we're kind of seeing a stalemate of home buying and home selling at this time. If I had to guess, it's a little bit of a buyer's market right now, for the fact that homes are on the market a little longer, 30, 40, 50, 60 days, when just 3-4 months ago, they were 10 to 12 days on the market.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
So with due diligence money, you want to speak to your lender, not your lender, I'm sorry, you want to speak to your real estate agent and get their opinion or her opinion on what you should offer for due diligence money. I would say in the type of market that we're in right now, that a lower due diligence could be okay. And as a seller, if you're getting an offer on a home, again, speak to your real estate agent, get their opinion. But you should get some type of due diligence money as a seller, possibly. And again, depends on the market you're in. Remember, you're taking this house off the market. No one else can buy it. It goes under contract, pending. And then this buyer, after about a week or two or a couple of days, decides they're not going to buy your house now. And they withdraw their offer, or terminate their offer, not withdraw their offer. Now you've lost time in the market. So as a seller, you want as much due diligence money as you can get, but also as a buyer, you probably want to give as less money, due diligence money you can get. So it's got to be a happy medium there. Obviously, negotiation is going to be taken in by your realtors and by yourself. And it's really going to depend on the market. If you have multiple offers on your home, as a seller, you may go, well, that's too low of a due diligence. I'm going to go with something a little higher because this person over here offered me higher due diligence. As a buyer, obviously, if it's a multiple offer situation, you may have to offer more due diligence to win the offer. It's really going to be on a case-by-case basis. So along with due diligence money, we've got due diligence period. And what due diligence period is this: there's no set date on due diligence period. Me, myself, I usually give 14 days of due diligence period because it takes usually 30 to 40 days to close on a home. So due diligence period is this. It's a time when you go under contract. Let's say you go under contract today. So 14 days from today, after you give your due diligence money, and let's say you get a home inspection, appraisal back, and it's not to your liking. It's something that they won't fix, or it's something that is just too much of a hassle. You're like, I'm not going to buy this house. I'm going to back out. You want to back out during due diligence period if you offered earnest money, and I'll talk about earnest money in just a second. If you offered earnest money, you have that certain 14, I give 14 days. So you have 14 days to back out. As a seller selling of a home, if the due diligence period ends, then if they gave any earnest money, then you could get their due diligence money and their earnest money. Hope that makes sense.
It totally makes sense.
Now we're going to talk about earnest money. So earnest money is this. It's just like due diligence money. There's no set amount. And instead of earnest money given straight to the seller from the buyer, it goes to the escrow agent, or in North Carolina, an attorney. So the escrow agent is a person who's doing the closing. It's typically going to be an attorney in North Carolina. So the earnest money goes straight to the attorney. And during that due diligence period I just talked about, 14 days is what I usually give. If that buyer decides to back out, they lose any due diligence money they have offered already as soon as they sign that offer. But if they back out within 14 days of the due diligence period, then they get their earnest money back. So as a seller, you get due diligence money from the buyer already, but if it goes past a no return, due diligence period ends, as a seller, you now get their due diligence money and their earnest money. So earnest money, like I said, there's no set amount. It's kind of like due diligence money. It's just given straight to the attorney, and there's a buffer in between. You don't lose that money right away. So as a buyer, obviously this is more enticing to a buyer because you don't lose your money right away. As a seller, it's not as strong, obviously, because they've got 14 days to terminate their offer if they want to. So earnest money, there's no set amount. It could be $0. It could be a couple hundred, it could be a couple thousand also. Next thing I'm going to talk about is going to be closing disclosures. So what this is in North Carolina, and I'm pretty sure it's for most states, is there's a residential disclosure and there's also a mineral oil and gas rights disclosure. What this is owner of a home has to disclose anything they know or is wrong with their home. Let's say they know the roof leaks, the HVAC is not working anymore, the refrigerator quit running or working. There's a big hole in the carpet, there's a big hole in the wall, whatever the case may be, they know of these issues. And with the mineral oil and gas rights form there's mineral oil and gas rights everywhere around your house, in the air, in the ground, everywhere. So, as a homeowner, as a seller, you had to disclose, did you sell these rights to a company, let's say a gas company, oil company? And I've never encountered yet where someone has done this, but obviously this form is because it has happened. So you had to disclose, yes, I did sell these rights to a company. No, I did not sell these rights. And also, do you know if their previous owner before you sold these rights? And there's yes, no, or no representation. So as a buyer, you have to be on the lookout for that. For the last thing you want is to be sitting outside drinking a cup of coffee, having a beer. Next thing you know, a gas truck pulls up and decides that they're going to get gas from the ground or the air because your previous owner allowed this to happen. Residential disclosure, same thing. Well, kind of the same thing. Doesn't deal with mineral and gas rights form, but they have to disclose things to you, like I said earlier. You know, if there's a hole in the wall, if the HVAC doesn't work anymore, roof, leak, whatever like that, they have to disclose it, but they do not have to fix it.
How is that fair?
It's not fair. It's not fair.
It goes right into our next word, which is caveat emptor. Owner of a home, as a seller, if there's a roof leak and they know of it, they have to disclose it. It's a material fact, but they do not have to fix it. They can say, hey, look, there's a roof leak, but you know now, but I'm not going to fix it. Good chance is they're going to lower the price, or they already have lowered the price to accommodate this roof issue or whatever issue it may be. Now, as a buyer, be aware that if this is obviously a roof is a major issue, but let's say it's the refrigerator doesn't run anymore. They have to disclose that to you. Hey, your refrigerator doesn't work anymore. I'm not getting a new one for you. You can go buy a new refrigerator, a couple of $1,000s or however you want to spend. Not a big deal as a roof leak, but you have to be aware of this. Now, also be aware of this. Some sellers may not know that there is a roof leak or there's an issue with a house, the attic, crawl space, whatever the case may be, because it's something they don't see every day. Sometimes a roof leak takes a couple of months, up to a year maybe before they even determine that it's a roof leak. A lot of people don't go in their attics every day or every month. It's something they discover, later at times. So I know I said it's a material fact, but you have to prove the seller knew this was an issue. So I hope that explains caveat emptor and residential disclosures. Next thing to talk about is going to be escrow agent or the attorney. And I talked about Elizabeth earlier, but in North Carolina, we need to have an attorney or escrow agent, other states it's called, to close on a home. So, the attorney is the middleman or middlewoman, and they are going to get all the documents prepared to close. From the selling side, they're going to get all the deed prep, all the information transferred over to the new buyer. So we get a new deed. Also, title insurance is done here. As a buyer, this is very important. You definitely want title insurance, and every attorney in town is going to do title insurance for you. What it does, it checks to make sure nobody else has rights to this home. You want crazy cousin Eddie who's in prison in Alaska, and his brothers and sisters decide to sell mom and dad's house without his permission, and he gets out of prison in 5 years and starts knocking on the door wondering why, who bought the house, and he didn't get permission to do this. Title insurance is going to cover that. Also look for liens on the house. You want to make sure the homeowner is paying their taxes on time, because the lien now follows you. Well, follows the house, not you, not the person. So if they owe $20,000 in back taxes as a homeowner, if you buy that house, now those back taxes belong to you. So title insurance is very important. So there's another term you should know. The next term you should know is appraisal. Now, a lot of people get this confused with home inspection, and home inspection is totally different. Home inspection is not required in North Carolina. Highly recommended. Home buyer, you should get a home inspection on a home, even if it's a brand new home sometimes, because you just never know what's wrong with the house, even if it's newly built. So home inspection comes out of your pocket. It's usually about $300-$400 depending on the size of the home. Get with your realtor, and they usually have a good home inspector they recommend all the time. You can, of course, use your own. Google somebody. But home inspection is not required. Appraisal is required typically with a home loan. An appraisal is a person the bank or lender is going to send out to the house to make sure it's worth what it's worth. If you're buying a house for $300,000, they're going to make sure it's worth $300,000 so they can let the bank know, yes, it's worth $300,000, because no one's going to loan you money for a $300,000 home and it's worth $290,000. That's $10,000 less, not going to happen. So they're going to make sure the house is worth what it's worth. They're also going to measure it to make sure the square footage is correct. They're also going to make sure there's no safety or hazardous issues. They want you buying a house. Obviously, that's going to be a hazardous issue because, that they're loaning you money. And if somebody gets hurt or something like that, that could affect the loan. Also, If there's a roof leak, going back to a roof leak, they're not going to let you buy a house that has a roof leak. Even if you were willing to buy a house with a roof leak and you're like, hey, I'm going to fix it up myself. I'm a fixer-upper. I'm a handyman, handywoman, whatever. I can fix it. Probably not going to happen. Good chance it's not going to happen. So that's why an appraisal is important. That's why it's done. It protects the bank. So as a seller, you definitely, well, buyer and a seller, you definitely want a good appraisal. You don't want anything coming in low. If appraisal comes in low, what could happen is 3 things could happen. So as a seller, as a buyer, you hope the seller comes down on a price. So the house is, you offer $300,000, it came in at a value of $290,000. You better hope that seller drops the price to $290,000 so you can get the loan. Option 2 is, as a buyer, you come out of pocket for $10,000. Or option 3 is that the buyer and seller come to a happy medium, and the seller is willing to lower the price by $5,000. The buyer is willing to pay $5,000 out of pocket. Typically, that doesn't happen too much. Usually, people don't want to pay for something more than it's worth, but it has happened in the past. So there's some options you can. Well, option 4 could be, actually, there's 4 options. Option 4 is you're not going to buy the house, they're not going to sell the house, and so there's actually 4 options to that. Are you thinking of relocating to the Fayetteville surrounding areas, or are you about to PCS to Fort Liberty? Well, I've got just the thing for you. The team and I have actually taken time to create the ultimate relocation guide, which is meant to save you hours of research, and I've linked it down below in the description. And the best part of this guide is 100% free. Yes, you heard me right, free. Just click the link in the description or the top pinned comment. I hope this helps you, and please reach out if you have any questions. Next thing we're talking about is contingencies. Now, contingencies can be a lot of things. Once you're under contract, your lender and the attorney can get together and make sure everything is smooth with this transaction as much as they can be. And could be some things that are contingent on this home closing. Let's say your lender may say, hey, I need some back taxes forms from the year before or 5 years before. They may ask for more. If you got some overtime at your job, they're going to ask for proof of that overtime. It could be issue with the title insurance, like I said earlier. So all these are contingencies with the helm that could prevent the house from selling on a buyer side and a seller side. Another contingency is this. What I see more of is as a buyer. They're looking to buy a home, but they have to sell their home first before they can buy a new home. This is contingent on their home selling. So let's say, well, they want to upgrade from a house that's $200,000. They got a bigger family now, or whatever the case be, and they want to buy a house that's $300,000. They have to sell that first, their home first, to get the loan for the second home. I've done this before. Gets a little stressful, so definitely buying and selling home at the same time could be a stressful thing, because you have to make sure that first house sold before you can buy the second home. Next thing we talk about is going to be closing costs. Now, closing costs consist of origination fees, your title work or title insurance, and also deed prep by the lawyer or the escrow agent. So origination fee is what you pay your lender, the application fee typically, and that's what he or she's commission is going to be. They get paid by commission. Some get paid by commission, and they get paid by salary. So a little bit of both. So you're looking at origination fees. That's what you're looking at. Also, title work is usually about $800 to $1,000, typically, possibly. Definitely, that can change at the time of this video. And next thing is just deed prep. We're getting everything ready. So as a buyer, your closing costs are going to be a little bit higher. Typically 3 to possibly 6% of the sale price of the home. So you're looking at the house $300,000. You're looking at closing costs of possibly $9,000 to $18,000. I've never seen it get up to $18,000 at a $300,000 home, but you just never know. As a seller of a home, you have closing costs also. You're paying your taxes that you've lived in the house for the year. So it's now December 7th of 2023. So if you've owned the house from January 1st up to that time, so you have to pay your taxes on that home. You also got closing costs with your commission to the agents, also just deed prep also. So your closing costs, that's your closing costs as a seller. If you enjoyed this video, please check out this video right here that YouTube recommends to you. And if you're thinking of buying, selling, or investing in the Fayetteville surrounding areas, please reach out to the team and I. We would love to help you. See you guys in the next video.